Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever it is that you are, wherever you may be. Thank you very much for making us a part of your day. I am Brad Franklin, Digital Media Relations Manager here in Chesterfield. Very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again. Now, we have done a variety of different sort of what I would like to call like awards shows, right? The opportunity for us to highlight various awards, sometimes ones that our department has won, sometimes various other folks in the county, and that's the opportunity we have in front of us today. Chesterfield took home 6 VACo Achievement Awards, including the Best Large County Achievement Award from the folks over at CARP for the Court and Navigator program. Very glad to welcome first Deborah Duggar from CARP to talk about all this. Deborah, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much.
Very much appreciate your time. Very much appreciate you being here. As I mentioned, VACo is it's hard to translate this for normal folks outside, but essentially VACo is a big deal.
Yes.
And it's certainly something I know that you guys are super excited about. The county's very excited about. Before we dive into all that, I always like to give people a chance to talk a little bit about sort of their background and their experiences and such. So tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to work for CARP.
Sure. I was raised in Chesterfield. I went to Falling Creek in Meadowbrook. I graduated from VCU, so I've stayed in this area. I think growing up, I had role models that were very involved in the community. My dad was on the school board.
Okay.
My neighbors were on the board of supervisors and the chief of police. So there was this sense of it wasn't something extra. It was just part of what you did was to be involved in your community.
Yeah.
So when I graduated, I got a job in Henrico and really wanted to come back to Chesterfield if I could. And so in 1992, they opened the youth group home. Okay. And so I came to the county, and it's just, I've stayed here
ever since.
And so we were the youth group home. It became very expensive to run a 24/7 operation. Yeah. And funding was being cut. So we looked at how can we serve these kids more efficiently. Right. And so that's when we changed the program to a day and evening reporting program. Okay. So for a while, that was 2010, we were day and evening reporting. And then as time went by, we're funded through the Department of Juvenile Justice, Virginia Juvenile Crime Control Act. Right. And so we've just morphed over the years, and I'll talk about that more later. But I've just really enjoyed being here in the county, and I feel part of this community. Yeah, that's great. I know that for a lot of folks, it feels like I've been here ever since kind of thing. Just kind of having that. It's funny how many times as I talk to various people throughout the organization, throughout the county, that seems to be a thing. Right? I came here in such and such and such and. I don't know, I've just been here ever since. It just sort of takes hold of you. Now, I apologize if this first question sounds a little bit odd, but I think if somebody was listening to this who has no idea what CARP is, they probably heard me say CARP there a minute ago and thinking, what is CARP other than a fish? Right. But what is CARP and how would you describe the organization? CARP stands for Chesterfield Adolescent Resource Pathways. Right. So, as I said, when we started morphing into something else, we started doing what we called listening sessions with our colleagues in schools, police, juvenile courts, of course, and asking them, and we've done this every 2 years, to coincide with our budget cycle, and we've asked them, what do you see in the juvenile justice, juvenile arrests? What do you see as a problem in the juvenile community? Right. And so we have tried to adjust what we do based on that response. Right, that feedback, right? Right. Yeah. So we were day and evening reporting, but that didn't really explain what we did. So we had a contest amongst our staff, and we said, what can we call ourselves? So it became Adolescent Resource Pathways, but then people said, how do you spell adolescent? So
there's a reason people like acronyms.
Yes. So it became CARP, and it stuck. And so, when people call and say, what's your email address? It's so much easier to say CARP at Chesterfield.gov. That's right. Yeah. So that's how that happened. Yeah. Now, I think maybe one of the things to keep in mind here as you sort of are talking through a lot of the work that you guys do are the differences when it comes to juvenile justice, right? A lot of us, we're
we're much more likely to be exposed to sort of the adult system, so to speak, right? But we're not maybe as clued in on the intricacies of juvenile justice, which admittedly is very likely changed over the course of your career since you've been here. How would you describe the way it's different than what maybe most people likely think of when they think of the justice system? What's different about the juvenile side of the justice system?
Well, juveniles are still learning, and that's what the background to everything we do is they're still learning, and we know that the brain is still developing through mid-20s. So we want to give every child an opportunity to learn something new and learn a different way if they, have gotten in trouble.
Right, yeah.
And, I like to say, how many of us have not done something illegal that we may or may not have gotten caught?
Yeah.
How many of us have realized we're speeding?
Yeah.
Even if we didn't get caught. So, we have to realize that these are children.
Yeah.
And only in the most violent offenses do we want to lock them up. We want them to learn how to behave appropriately in the community and learn from their mistakes.
Yeah.
And the majority of youth do.
Yeah.
The majority of youth who are arrested in their teens are not in prison when they're in their 20s.
Right, yeah.
They learn from their mistakes and they move on.
Mm-hmm.
And just as an example, we've got 65,000 students in our Chesterfield County school system.
Right.
The number of kids that we detain for violent charges is 0.43%. So we're talking about a very, very small number of kids.
Right. Yeah.
But they need the most attention so that
that's
they,
fair. Yeah.
Don't grow up to be adult criminals. We want them to love the community as much as I do.
Right.
We want them to participate in their community and give back and be, functioning adults.
Yeah.
So.
And that's, I would imagine then that's really the end goal, right? For the work you guys do and what CARP does is what you're really trying to do is to help these juveniles through this portion of their life and get them back on that road to the place where, they're, good, strong, functioning members of society. Is that fair?
Yes, that's exactly right. We want them to be taxpayers.
Yeah, that's right. You want them to grow to get to a place where they're not so not in this small point whatever percent. Now they're part of the much larger percentage of folks who are going about their daily lives, having not just the fun experiences but the normal experiences, and like I said, being sort of members of the community. Before we get Joeleathia in here, I want to touch on Court Navigator, which obviously won this VACo award. How did that kind of come to be conceived? Where did that sort of idea come from?
Well, it was one of our listening sessions, and our juvenile court service unit director at the time said, our court would be more efficient if we had someone that could help people figure out when the judge orders a psychological, for example, how do you do that? Mm-hmm. Where do you go to get a psychological?
Right.
And particularly if they don't speak English, who can do that?
Right.
When the judge orders them to have an anger management class or a gun safety class,
right?
Who does that?
Right.
And sometimes families don't even get a copy of the court order. Maybe they've moved. Maybe they didn't ask for the...
They didn't know.
Yeah, they didn't know.
Right, yeah.
So they'll go back to court and say, oh, well, no, we didn't do that part. So the Court Navigator is designed to, fill that gap, to help them understand what the expectations are so that they don't have to spend more on court costs. They don't have to, take off time from work to return to court a second time.
Right. I realize now I should also ask before I let you go how proud you are of the VACo award, of the work that Ms. Wilson's doing, the work that CARP is doing. Because VACo is very stingy about its awards, right? And I try to explain this to people that NACO, the National Association of Counties, it's great, right?
Yes.
But they give out 30 some per we had, I think it was like 30 or 40, whatever it is. There's only 6 VACos here in Chesterfield, but there's only like a much smaller number given out across the entire Commonwealth. I think out of 155 submissions this year, VACo awarded just 57. So what does it mean to you and, to see the work that Ms. Wilson and folks in CARP are doing and to be recognized in this way?
Well, of course, I'm so very proud. And I do want to also, before I speak to that, I don't want to neglect to mention that we operate the community service for our courts, our juvenile courts. We have a substance use program for kids who are suspended from school for their 10-day suspension. They can come to CARP and we give them counseling and resources.
Right.
And we have our educational vocational connections coordinator that helps kids figure out, career or vocational planning.
Right.
So we really run the gamut, and we still have our day reporting program.
Right.
So I do want to mention that, and we're very proud of that. We make a point to use evidence-based practices, and we talk to our colleagues and find out what they need. We're not just operating programs just because we think it's a nice thing. And and I'll give you an example. People think that a program like Scared Straight is impactful because, it's scary. It's in the name. It's scary. But it really doesn't impact kids the way empathy and restorative practices work. So we make sure that we actually know the truth and not just go on what our our friends and family may think we should do. We make sure that we're using all of the evidence, and all of the people that work in our department are on board with that, and let these kids know that we care about you. We're not going to let you get away with something illegal, but we really care about you, and we're going to be with you through thick and thin.
Yeah, and this program, I think, is a great example of that because of how much it invests time and energy into helping people through a process which otherwise can seem incredibly daunting, incredibly intimidating, and like you said earlier, folks just don't know.
Right.
Well, Deborah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Very much appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're now welcoming Joeleathia Wilson, who is the Court Navigator of the aforementioned Court Navigator program. Ms. Wilson, welcome to the podcast. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me
Very
here.
much appreciate your time. Very much appreciate you doing this. First, I guess I should say congratulations, because I know this is a big honor for the county, and certainly to be not just one of 57, but then for the Court Navigator program to be the Best Large County Achievement Award winner for VACo in 2025, I think says a lot about the work that you're doing, the work that CARP is doing, and certainly the folks who are being impacted by that. Before we get started and dive in, Ms. Wilson, let me, as I did with Deborah, I want to start by asking you about your background and how you came to be involved with CARP.
Okay. So I received a master's degree in social work. I began working with Chesterfield County in 1985 as a social worker with the Chesterfield Colonial Heights Department of Social Services.
1985. Woo!
Wow. So as you know, there's been a lot of change
since been a lot going on.
Time. And I initially started off working in foster care.
Okay.
So I really enjoyed working with families, with kids. And every 5 years I was in various positions. I went from foster care worker to ongoing child protective services to a senior social worker and then to a supervisor.
Okay.
So after 33 years of service, I retired from the county, but I knew that I wanted to continue to serve.
To do more,
That's part of my passion is about service.
Right.
There was a connection in terms of just helping people and supporting families.
Yeah.
So I then started, so I retired in 2018.
Okay.
And took a break. And actually—
How long was the break?
Not long, because I ended up working. So I worked in customer service at Dillard's.
Okay, yeah.
Had never worked in that type of environment before.
Right.
And then ended up being called back. One of the assistant director of the Department of Social Services called me back and asked me if I wanted to do something part-time temp.
Okay.
And it was reviewing records. And I was like, yes. I knew the staff. I knew the work.
I like how you said reviewing records like it was, playing with toys. You're just like, oh, yes, this sounds great.
Well, because I knew the staff and I knew the work and I enjoyed the work.
Yeah, I understand.
So being able to help them and support them was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
So I did that until COVID.
Yeah, right.
And so COVID happened, and then the position ended.
Yeah.
And then after a period of time, it was in November of 2020.
Yeah.
I had my routine of looking at employment. I exercised. I did various things. But I saw a position for court navigator. And I was like, well, what is that?
Yeah.
And I had collaborated with juvenile justice staff before.
Right, naturally.
And so I'd done some work and actually contacted someone that I knew and said, so what all do you all do?
Right, yeah.
So I got more information about what the juvenile justice side of policies and procedures consisted of.
Right.
And said, okay, it's a part-time position, I'm going to apply for it. And when I had the virtual interview, what I really appreciated was I had previously worked with Ms. Duggar at a youth emergency shelter.
Okay.
And she and Ms. Hinkins interviewed me. And Ms. Duggar said, I know Joeleathia from previously having worked with her. I really appreciated her being just saying that.
Yeah, right, yeah.
Acknowledging in terms of the work we've done before. So then she gave me the call back in terms of that I was hired for the position. I love the fact that it was part-time.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so what is this actually going to entail?
I'm glad I got this job. What is the job?
So in terms of Ms. Hinkins, who is the supervisor for the court services unit, she's the person that I receive, her staff. Are the individuals that I receive my referrals from.
Okay.
And when I say referrals, the referrals consist of I get a copy of the court order.
So that's how this whole process starts, right? Is you get a referral from them, and that court order is how is like essentially the start of your involvement in this.
Correct.
Right? Okay. So take me through the rest of that process.
Okay. So the referral consists of I get a court order, I get the family information, and any other documents that they think I need to have.
Right.
So I receive those, and then I reach out to the family. And what I do is I explain who I am and say my role is to assist you in accessing service. The first thing I do is say, okay, the provisions of the court order consist of to make sure that everybody's clear. And sometimes I'm not clear in terms of what may be written.
Right. Yeah.
So families will clarify for me or something that hasn't been written but was said in court.
Right.
And then they can share that information with me.
So it's good for them and for you. So
Absolutely.
Basically that initial conversation gets everybody on the same page.
Absolutely.
Right, that makes sense.
And families are sometimes not given court orders, so I will ask, would you like a copy of the order? And most of the time they say yes, or those that don't have to. And this is all voluntary.
Right, yeah.
On their part.
Right.
So I go over the court order, and in terms of the order, typically is consisting of, they're asking adolescents to do community services. They may have to do a substance abuse assessment. They may have to write a letter to the court in terms of apologizing, counseling, anger management, as Ms. Duggar talked about. So there are various things that a court order may entail.
Right.
So part of that is going to be my being able to connect them to resources in the community if they don't have those.
Right.
Sometimes families say, well, I already know somebody in terms of nonprofit organizations where an adolescent may be able to do their community services. I had a family living in Amelia County. So, and that was something that I learned, okay, you can have a charge here in Chesterfield, but not necessarily reside in Chesterfield.
Right, yeah.
So the family lived in Amelia, and they were in terms of the resources that I had, there wasn't resources for Amelia County.
Right, that makes sense.
So then my role is to look at, okay, who can I connect with to see what we can help this family with.
Right.
So I actually contacted a couple of churches and the library. And the library was a resource for this family. So then being able to connect back with the family and give them that information. The other piece in terms of England, when families that English is a second language.
Right, yeah.
So really helping them to work through. And I use an interpreter.
That's what I was going to ask,
when
if you spoke fluent Spanish. Or,
no, I do not.
Yeah. So you have an interpreter who works with you. Gotcha.
So there's an interpreter line that I call, and I get an interpreter, and that interpreter translates for me what I'm needing to say to the family. And oftentimes it's going back and forth in terms of making sure they're understanding what I'm saying.
Right.
The other piece for me is in terms of not only I ask information about, well, who else is in your family? When I basically call, I'm asking, tell me about other family members, and they will tell me in terms of age of children.
Right.
And who's in school or who's in the household. And then I'll tell them, well, I'm going to once a month do a check-in, see how things are going.
Yeah.
And if you have to return to court, because not all cases you have to return to the court hearing.
Right, yeah.
Then it gives me the opportunity to actually meet you in court and then to hear what happens in court with your case.
Navigator it's so interesting because as you're kind of describing it, Navigator is the perfect word for describing what it is that you're doing, because it keys off of your background in social work in a lot of ways, but also too, like, you really are in the absolute perfect definition of the word. You're helping them navigate this very arduous, sometimes weird process that I would imagine most of the folks you work with have either very limited exposure to, or maybe don't understand all the ways that everything works. So not only are you helping them sort of get that feel, but you're also connecting them with the resources that they need, much to your sort of social work background. I feel like Navigator is the perfect word to describe what you're doing here.
I agree with you. And oftentimes, because the adolescents are represented by an attorney,
right,
they're not frequently speaking with that attorney.
Right.
So if there's someone that they need to contact to ask questions of, or to say, I'm struggling with, I'm not able to do this, or I haven't been able to get in contact with these individuals, then I can help them with that. So I believe that this role has been helpful to families. Families have talked about how helpful. Attorneys have talked about how helpful. There have been attorneys where, especially in terms of where English is a second language, where I've been communicating with the family on a regular basis.
Right.
And when I get to court, then I'm sharing with the attorney what all has occurred.
Right.
And that attorney can then apprise the court
right.
of what has been happening with the family.
Yeah.
So it really does help families tend to get done what's needing to happen.
I can imagine too, over the time that you've done this, there are lots of things where you've learned, to your point about the example of the person from Amelia, the idea of the lessons that you've learned. So those first opportunities, like, we'll snap. I don't have the same resources for Amelia that I do for Chesterfield, right?
Absolutely.
And I can imagine there are lots of things. What are some of the other lessons that you've learned, or maybe some things that have helped even tweak the program a little bit to be as successful as it's been? What are some of the things that you've learned over time?
For me, one, in terms of developing other resources. Mm-hmm. So I was initially given a resource list, mm-hmm. but building on that.
Right.
So agencies that no longer provided community services, reaching out to other agencies to make it a more comprehensive list, mm-hmm. and updating that on a regular basis.
Yeah.
I had a situation where a young man was actually in North Carolina. So I had to find out resources in that locality in terms of substance abuse counseling. Yeah. The other pieces I would say that I have built on is in reference to the data.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
Keeping the information far as the length of time an adolescent has been before the court.
Right.
Has there been any additional charges
mm-hmm.
that have occurred? I ask restorative questions, and the restorative questions consist of what happened. Mm. And before I start with that, I'd like for the parent to be beside the adolescent when they're answering the questions, so that they can hear what's being said.
Yeah, that makes sense.
As well as it also gives them an opportunity. And I say to the adolescents, what you've done doesn't define who you are.
Right, yeah.
So, and I hope the opportunity is that you have learned from this experience.
Right, yeah.
So the questions are, what happened? What were you thinking at the time? What have you learned since that time?
Right, yeah.
Who has been impacted by what you've done?
Right.
And how have they been impacted?
Right.
Because I want them to, in terms of adolescence, you think only in terms of yourself sometimes.
That's true.
So realizing, you're not the only one affected. How about your mom who's having to go to court with you, or your dad, or paying for that attorney?
Right. Or having to take time off. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right.
Taking time off to take you to community services or your siblings to come along.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So all of those things are things that I want them to begin to think in terms of.
Yeah, right. That makes sense.
And the choices that they're making. And most of the time they realize, this has not only affected me, but everybody in my household.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the fifth question is, what do you need to do differently?
Yeah.
So, and most of them say, get this done and not do it again.
Yeah.
So those
which is kind of the whole, which is a great place to land, right? Which is
yes, absolutely, to not have to come back before the court again.
Right. And I mean, one of the things, and I know, having worked on the news release for it and such, I know the efficiency side of this from the court side is super helpful. But then when you package that with the help that is being given to not just those who are charged, but the families of those who are charged, it really does feel like this program is a win-win for everyone, in the sense that it's helping everybody involved in this entire process move more smoothly through this process, and hopefully mitigate the opportunity for someone to be back in this process again. I can imagine for you that means a lot to be able to help people through the process, and then to hopefully get them to a place where those kids to a place where, that this is a thing in their rear view, and they're focused on what's in front of them. How rewarding is the work, aside from the award itself, which I know is obviously a great thing and everything, but how rewarding is the work itself that you do in this role?
I appreciate the opportunity to be able to serve. I believe that this is a collaborative approach in terms of this is voluntary on the family's part. So they're allowing me to work with them in terms of talking with me about things that are going on within their family.
Right, yeah.
Sometimes beyond just a charge.
Yeah, right.
So for me, it's very fulfilling. I feel that this is my purpose. This is a calling.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the opportunity to be able to do it. I'm grateful for the work that I'm able to do with families and the courts and all of the people that I work with.
Yeah.
So that includes the judges. It includes the Commonwealth attorneys. It includes the defense attorneys.
Right.
It includes the families. It includes the court services unit. So it's all of us working together.
Right, yeah.
And I think that's what makes it most effective.
Yeah. I had one more question planned, but Ms. Wilson, I kind of want that to be the note, because that was extremely well said. And I think that summation of the work you're doing and what it means to you, I think is beautiful. And I very much appreciate it. Congratulations, obviously, on not just the award itself, which I know is a very big deal for everyone and for CARP and the county, but also, too, for the work that you're doing and making a real difference in the community. So thank you so much.
Thank you. I appreciate this time.
I appreciate you being on the show. Appreciate you and Deborah both taking the time to be with us today.
Thanks.
All right. Make sure you check us out on social media. On Twitter, it's at Chesterfield VA, and on Instagram, it's Chesterfield Virginia on Word. On our Facebook, you can check out our podcast pages. Search Chesterfield Behind the Mic. Now, make sure to follow or subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Overcast, or wherever it is that your shows are sold. And if you're so inclined to give us a rating and a review, we greatly appreciate that. As always, a video version of our show is available on our YouTube channel as well as on our website at chesterfield.gov/podcast. That's also where you can submit feedback anytime, make a suggestion, or just reach out to us. You can watch the show on WCCT Thursday through Sunday at 7. On the weekends at noon, that is Comcast Channel 98, Verizon Channel 28. Lastly, check out chesterfield.gov/connect with us to find out a number of other ways to connect with Chesterfield County. Thanks to my director, Martin Stith, my executive producer, Teresa, Bonifas, and all the good folks from Constituent Media Services for all they do. And my thanks to you for joining us today. So, from all of us here in Chesterfield, thanks again for making us a part of your day. We'll see you again real soon. Take good care.
From blogs to podcasts. And I'm very glad to tell you that Chesterfield Behind the Mic is on the air once again.
Weekly video segments and newsletters.
Social media, the latest community news.
And this is your Chesterfield News Minute for September 19th.
How to get in touch, and everything in between. If you want to know about Chesterfield County, our Connect With Us webpage has you covered. Chesterfield.gov/connect with us. Connect with us, your source for all things Chesterfield.